You are listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network. Magical wishing device that still, had a dark side, made people like you love die. You're like, okay, of course I'm not going to use it. But after seeing this movie, I would use it once. I wish I had turned down the opportunity to go to this screening. Sorry, whichever one of you doesn't make it out of here.
I think one of the characters actually said it best. I would have wished for world peace. Because for me to actually wish fate to be changed just to eradicate the memory of this movie, that would suggest that it made a bigger impression on me than it really did. Having
seen every possible variety on the monkey's paw scenario, you can't wish for world peace because that would just wipe out all life on Earth.
I know.
That's always the downside. You have to be ultra specific about these things, especially if you know that someone you know is going to die because of your wish.
Fate has this sort of O. Henry-esque sense of humor. Only, it's just more evil.
Yeah, if you ever get a genie's lamp or whatever it is, go to a lawyer first. So you can write out the exact wording of your wishes, and so the genie will be like, well, fuck.
It's like tiny pianist.
and I know the character is young, but it's like she's never seen Bedazzled.
Yeah, right? Or any other given movie like this. I mean, the only character this wish thing ever works out for is Aladdin. Yeah. Which, that being said, I kept thinking during this, how much better would this movie have been if they had a sardonic genie that would come out and be like all joking, and you're all like, oh, it's a funny comedy. And then the genie murders people.
The Chinese demon. No demon shows up in this movie.
There's no demon. It's a bad, poorly thought out, hacked version of a Final Destination, essentially.
This is kind of what it is. This writer probably had an idea for Final Destination, got rejected at every turn, and was like, I'll show you motherfuckers. I'm going to write my Final Destination movie.
It doesn't feel like he would, or she, sorry, the writer would have even gotten as far as a Final Destination. like even to the door, it was like maybe she like the Supernatural spinoff when they were doing scripts for that, and she was rejected from that.
Like, I'm sorry, but this is too far-fetched.
I mean, the whole time, it's blatantly obvious how Final Destination this movie is, but I also got like a big Craft vibe from it as well. Like, there was a lot of like, the part where, she wishes for the boy to fall in love with her, that's straight, and he kind of goes a little stalkery, that's straight from the Craft as well.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, like, so utterly predictable, which is really the worst thing we've got going here. This movie, Wish Upon, has zero surprises. Joey King, who's a young actress who's actually starred in a lot of good things, including the first Conjuring, where she played one of the young daughters in there. And she plays a high school student, which she actually is, unless she graduated early. I don't know. Not like it matters. Nice way to go. Yeah. No, let's just talk about that. No.
Well, no, we can't talk about that because she's actually one of the better parts of this movie. She's not bad in this movie. It's just the movie around her isn't very good.
She actually is why I was mildly intrigued by this movie because she is young. She has been in a lot of movies. I anticipate really great things for her career as she gets older because I think she is genuinely talented.
But she is of that age that no matter how good an actress you are, you're going to end up in a dumb horror film at some point. But she plays Claire, as we see in the very beginning of the movie when she's a young girl. She witnesses her mother killing herself, and she wakes up from as older Claire from the nightmare of remembering it because they've got to find a way to segue in the little prequel sequence somewhere. Her dad is played by a very scruffy-looking Ryan Phillipe, who you're like, boy, you haven't aged real well. Well, wait, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But
start sending me the scripts that Aaron Paul passes on. I can do that.
Just homeless-looking Ryan Phillipe. And he's like, he and his buddy are garbage divers?
Yeah, they're like dumpster junkmen.
They reclaim metal from...
This is an actual thing. They're basically pickers.
That wasn't really clear.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, what wasn't clear is they have this huge fucking house, and just the taxes alone, I'm sorry, you can't...
No, it's one of those houses that it's big and sort of gothic and creepy, and you realize the only reason they live in it is because it's creepy. Whereas, the reality would be a 1.5 bedroom apartment somewhere
on the shitty side of town. Yeah, exactly. And he's digging around in the garbage, and he finds this old Chinese box thingy, and he's like, "Oh, my daughter would like this because she takes Chinese in her high school." What high school teaches Chinese in America?
A high school teacher that teaches Chinese that can't read Chinese.
Yeah. Well, now specified ancient Chinese. There is a difference. There have been many different versions along the years.
If I learned anything growing up in the 80s watching Gremlins and watching Hellraiser, if you find some obscure, weird little box in a Chinese junk shop, or even if you find it on the street, you do not pick it up and take it home with you.
That's because you're Mexican. From a white point of view, we immediately take it home and start going, how do you open this thing?
See, this is why I wasn't surprised with the Aaron Paul thing, because I have friends and family who do this. We would have been like, some white motherfucker will pay us a shitload for this money. Mm-hmm. We'll get some money for this.
What does it say on the side? It says, whoever opens this will die horribly. It's like, how do I open it? How do I open it? I gotta know. I've got to test it.
Anytime you make a wish in a movie, there is a catch. And in this case, there are 7 catches.
Well, yeah. Well, the whole thing being she wishes on the thing just because, by which she happens to be, she knows just enough Chinese to translate something on the thing that says you get 7 wishes.
Yeah,
and so
she could read the damn thing, but the teacher couldn't.
Well, once again, Chinese, it's like any language, evolved over time, and its characters haven't been the same. So she could read that much of it.
She had 7 wishes.
You know, and so she makes a wish, not really, expecting much of it. Basically, she hates the popular girl at high school who, even for the 80s, would have been unrealistically a just total flaming cunt. You're like, wow. As Marco pointed out, dude, this girl's mom killed herself in front of her, and you're still treating her that terribly all these years later? Yeah, and it's not like she's some freak show in school, She looks like a pretty normal girl.
But she's arty, and her dad is a junk man, and he picks junk literally in front of the school.
Yeah.
So everybody knew that guy.
I suppose
whose dad was the janitor and caught hell for it forever.
I suppose I'd beat her up, too.
There you go. You would just throw your latte in her general direction and wait for it to splatter all over.
But one at a time, we see her make these wishes, and they come true. Boy, it takes this girl an awful long time to catch on that maybe there's something happening here.
Literally,
And while we, the audience, see people around her start having these, Final Destination-y type deaths, and there's enough of a supporting cast here that serves no purpose except to be let's see if you can guess which one of these characters is going to die next, which would have been interesting if they had played with that concept more than once in this entire film. Because
they do have a couple moments like that where you really don't. It's the closest thing to suspense you get in this film.
But only once. There's only one time they play with that, and even then, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going to happen. The rest of the time, it's immediately they go, okay, now let's, for no reason at all, go spend time with this character. And you're like, okay, so it's just waiting for the stupidest and really generic deaths to play out.
I need some contrived reason to suddenly go take the elevator.
Yeah.
Like, what? Oh, wait, here's a convenient time to have a car blow out. And also, here's a little movie tip, kids. Movie logic versus real life logic. If you are ever changing a tire on your car,
don't ever climb under the car.
Flies under the car. It sucks. It happens. But if you have to reach so far that you are practically on the other side of the car, just go around to the other side.
I mean, you literally can see
your whole way through.
The guy's got an L wrench, like a long L wrench there. You're like, just grab it with the wrench, dumbass.
You put on 4 of the bolts, you move it a few feet, and then you reclaim the missing bolt. I'm sorry, that's just logical.
This is another Final Destination connection, but that scene reminded me of, it was Final Destination 3. One of the special features on that DVD was like choose your own. Yeah. Where it's like, let's make him go around the car and do the safe thing, and he would still end up biting the dust one or the other way. Or the girl, it's like, let's say she takes the stairs, and it's like,
and they still die. Yeah. As the plot goes on, she eventually gets more of the thing translated, and it's kind of like, oh, and by the way, horrible things happen to people around you. She's like, oh, well, that would explain all those weird deaths of people I know every time I've made a wish.
Literally, everything I want comes true in one day, and then the next day, someone I care about dies horribly. But clearly, that's a coincidence.
And
3 days in a row.
And it adds a little thing like, oh yeah, and by the way, something bad happens to you if you do 7 wishes. So there's really, early on in this movie, you're pretty much like, I know exactly how this whole film is going to play out from beginning to end.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was definitely, And you don't even have to be a horror movie fan to see like this coming a mile away.
No.
Like you're just a movie person and you'll see it coming a mile away. Like there's no surprises.
It's a law of character conservation.
I don't know who wrote this. Can we read that?
Barbara Marshall.
Okay. And I don't know Barbara Marshall. She might be a perfectly nice person and even talented. But this is one of those screenplays where I try to imagine, okay, is this just somebody very cynically and consciously ripping off a ton of other stuff? Or have they just not seen enough movies that they independently came up with the idea and thought they were cool for it?
One of those things where you have a really good idea, you take it to the, whoever it is that makes the decisions in the movie studio, and then they just end up like, we need more jump scares here. Or, we should do this here. And then it just becomes the same movie every single time.
And to be fair, this film did feel really chopped up. There's a whole, like JC pointed out, that for some reason the other girls keep calling her like as a derogatory name, Winner.
Yeah.
It's never explained or even like started to be pointed out what that is. There's a strange cameo by Jerry O'Connell here in a flashback sequence that's apropos of nothing. And you're like, why is Jerry O'Connell in this tiny little sequence? I was like, I bet you that was a longer sequence of this film.
Yeah.
That was cut
the
out.
Original prologue.
It could have been, but it was very odd. It was like, well, that was a strange way to do that.
There wasn't room. I mean, it was a minute or it was an hour 30, so they could have tacked on another 10, 15 minutes to explain things better.
I mean, 90 minutes for teen horror films is about as long as you're going to get.
The decision to keep it short was probably smart. This is not, contrary to what we're saying, I don't think this movie's god-awful. It's just not very good. It's totally middle of the road. If you've never seen a movie like this, you might enjoy it the first time, but I assure you there are a lot of other examples of this type of film that are much better.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. However, that being said, this is the type of film that gets even lower points from me just by being so specifically banal. Sure. I would prefer a movie that's more outrageously bad over what we get here that's playing it so incredibly safe. I mean, the amount of even the amount of gore on screen would be tame for Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
It's so tame, it's insane. I'm like, I see gorier stuff than this at 8 o'clock in the 90s on television, What are you doing? Who are you making this movie
the average
for?
Episode of Breaking Bad.
I mean, I can only assume this is made for 10-year-olds because it's on that level of dumb. It's R.L. Stine level of dumb, It's not on any level a grown-up film. It's not very complicated. There's nothing interesting. I can't think of a single line in here that was worth repeating or was notable in any way, shape, or form. I mean, or good kills at all. Everything is taken from better films. It's so utterly boring and banal. It goes to rock bottom on my estimation because of that. Yeah. It's like, is it the worst movie ever made? Horror movie ever made? No, but it would have gotten more points if it was.
Yeah. I can remember one line, charisma. But only because of how awful it was. Where she's telling the Asian kid, she literally says, "If you don't back off, I swear I'll use one of these wishes on you, and I swear I'll use a wish on you."
Yeah.
Repeats the same thing in the same sentence.
It's preposterously bad.
Part of the problem is because the lead is so engaging. She is such, a good presence on screen. I wanted to like her more, and you've got every reason to root for her. She's the sort of poor kid in the rich school. She's got this problematic past. You want to like her, and what does she do? Perhaps it's realistic that she would wish for the most banal, superficial things. But I would have almost wanted her to try to wish for something really, really good and decent and something that gave her some character and then have it blow up in her face.
Well, it's the thing is, she is a decent actress, and, at first she is sympathetic, but you lose it so fast when the movie just never gives you anything else to like about her other than the fact that her mom died in front of her.
We're supposed to believe that this box is kind of taking over her.
Yes, sort of.
But it's like you just keep asking for the most stupid things. I want to be popular. I wish so-and-so loved me.
You're not going to wish you could fly? Come on. That'd be my first one.
I wish my dad.
Which was another infuriating moment for me. This idea of high school popularity being you show up to a house party and everybody starts clapping at your arrival. I'm like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
was fairly popular in high school. That doesn't happen.
The one part out of all of this that I thought was kind of laughably fun was, there's a point where Ryan Philippe's character goes to, because of a wish, from like a loser dad to like, whoa, hot dad.
Yeah, and specifically the wish was for him not to be embarrassed.
Yeah, and you're like, wow, he really does clean up really well. You're just like, Jesus Christ, you haven't aged at all.
Yeah, but then he's like, but her idea of cool is like, he plays smooth jazz on a set. It's like,
well,
you could have made him like a rock star or something. Like, no, my dad. Hey, let's go to the Driscoll and see my dad. His band is playing tonight for a bunch of old people.
She likes 80s cop movies. Playing the saxophone is the coolest thing in the world.
Let me try to imitate Courtney Pine on some other better soundtrack.
Sad to see that although Sherilyn Fenn is in this, who we get to see and hear, but still not in Twin Peaks yet. What the fuck? Sorry.
She was too busy doing this to return David Lynch's calls.
Given such a generic, boring character here with very little to do, and by the way, gets the dumbest death of any of the characters in this movie. Like, I'm sorry, spoiler.
Particular death is actually a big phobia of mine, so I had a hard time watching it.
I've seen that exact thing 17
and they
times.
Stretch it out to where you think, oh, it's not going to happen the way you think it's going to happen, and then they go, no, we're going to do
it's
going to
happen exactly the way it was going to happen.
It was such a lame payoff to such a lengthy, time-wasting setup.
All right, well, continue on to your final thoughts, Marco.
Oh, my final thoughts. Like I said, is this a great movie? No. Is it a good movie? Just barely. It is competently made. It's well executed for what it is, but it is terribly predictable and, suffers from, as Chris said, just being banal and not for trying to do anything more than what it wanted to be in the first place, which is a competent middle grade thriller. I give this movie 5 farts in an increasingly uninteresting multiverse.
Damn, that's the kindest vote I could imagine giving this movie. JC?
It's mostly forgettable, and I think for a horror, that's kind of the worst sin it can make, is to be completely forgettable. Really poorly written. One of the dumbest written movies I've seen in a while. Really bummed out for Joey King, because I think she's really talented, and she is good in this. If you're a fan of hers, if you really want to see something where she's the lead in, this will do that for you, but I'm sure she's destined to have a lot better movies in her career.
God, I hope so.
Yeah. Even at 90 minutes, I would have maybe appreciated an extra 10 to, hash out some stuff. Maybe I would have appreciated it more. But maybe they didn't feel like it was worth the effort. I don't know. But yeah, I would give it 0 out of 10 times I would stick my hand down a garbage dumpster.
Nice.
Or garbage disposal.
Patience?
I agree with Marco. This isn't a really terribly bad film, but it's not a very good film. And I actually I was entertained. I'm not going to lie. I kind of liked some of the death scenes. I thought the overall story was just super unpredictable and boring, like you said, in that way for sure. But overall, I would say that, it's definitely geared towards a teen demographic, and I think it'll do well with the teen demographic. And if I saw this come across Netflix one night and I was super bored, I'd probably watch it, and I probably would be okay with it. So I'm going to give it 6 wontons out of 10.
Jesus Christ. All right. I found this a completely unimaginative, boring piece of shit. The only thing I give it points for at all really is Joey King's being in it and giving it her all, despite the fact that this, the actual dialogue, it's not the kind of bad dialogue that's like you listen to it and you go, that's laugh out loud bad. It's just poor high school writing bad. It's there's nothing clever about it. It's repetitive. In the dialogue, both in the dialogue and in the plotting, there's just nothing imaginative here at all. Really, really 0 points for that. It's about as generic. I mean, when you expect to see a generic bad Hollywood horror film like Ouija or Annabelle, this is exactly what we're talking about, is something right along those lines. And this director, John R. Leonotti, in fact, is one of the guys who has made several of those movies in the past as well. Directing Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
He made Piranha 3D.
The Butterfly Effect 2.
Yeah,
cinematographer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Annabelle. I cannot recommend this movie on any level. I give this 1, and that's just for Joey King, who I hope does better with her career after this. 1 ancient Chinese artifact out of 10 that is cursed, and I would still figure out a way to open it and do horrible things. Marco, if your family does find any of those, let me know.
Joey King needs to wish for a better agent.
Seriously, right?
Even if it kills her agent.
Yeah, right? Because he's got it. The old agent. Because he's got it coming.
Hurt someone you love.
Okay.
Agents, you could get another agent.
That's true. They're disposable.
Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to Oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.